Silba is an island in Croatia with an area of 15 square kilometers, northern Dalmatia, southeast of Lošinj, between the islands of Premuda and Olib. It has a Mediterranean climate with 2,570 hours a year of sunshine. Most summer days are hot, bright and clear, with light westerly Maestral wind cooling the island in the afternoons. Silba has an area 15 square kilometers in the shape of number 8, with the village of Silba located at the narrowest point in the middle. It takes only around 10 minutes to walk the 600 meters from the northeastern harbor of M to the southwestern harbor of Zalik. Officially, Silba's population is 292, but it varies seasonally, from a few hundred, mainly pensioners, in the winter, to several thousand during summer months. Many have jobs and properties on the mainland. There is also an influx of tourists during the summer months, as tourism is now the main economic activity on the island. The whole island is a pedestrian zone. No traffic is allowed with the exception of vehicles supplying the local businesses. Zadar is Silba's mainland administrative center. It is part of the Zadar County. Geography. The island has numerous small beaches and coves. The main public beach, Sutarišća, located close to the harbor of M, has very clear shallow waters with sandy bottom. On Zalik, there are a number of pebbly beaches and a pier. Ships carrying passenger and commercial traffic dock here. There are a number of coves outside the village that can be reached by footpaths. On the southern side of the island, at walking distances of about 30 to 45 minutes, are Lošinj, the only point on the island where the shores are steep and rocky. Port SV, favored with yachtsmen because it is protected from major winds. One can also view a small chapel on the side of the bay. Dobrovođ, a beach with shallow sandy bottom. Nosda, a big cove with characteristic flat rock formations cut out by the sea. On the north side of the village is the highest point on Silba, Varh. The northern shore is less accessible than the southern due to rocky shores. However, there is a path leading north out of the village to the small port of Papranica. Further on along the path, about an hour's walk from the main village, is a cove, Panastica, which is considered one of the nicest coves on the island. It faces westwards towards the sunset and has a long, shallow sandy bottom. Silba's most popular landmark is Torita, a sleek tower with a spiral staircase from which there is a wonderful view of the surrounding islands. It is in the center of the village, right on Veliput, Silba's high street. The village has several cafes, 4 restaurants, a number of shops, post office and a local GP. From any point in the village it takes only around 10 minutes or less to walk to the nearest beach. History. The old name for this island is Selbor. The island Silba is mentioned in historical records in the 9th century. In 827, it belonged to the Zadar County. In 1073, in the last year of Peter Kresimir's reign, probably at the request of his sister Sika, the first nun of Saint Maria in Zadar, the county donated the island to the monastery St. Maria at the ceremony of sacrament of their church. Later, the island fell into the hands of the Venetian authorities, which sold it to Captain Fanny Soppi for 12,350 ducats. It is not known how it later came into the ownership of Venetian family Morosini. Silba was held by family Morosini until the first quarter of 19th century. As it was too far to govern and receive tax on yield in nature, they agreed with inhabitants of Silba in 1770 to receive each year 2,000 Venetian lira. in rent. Silbans called this rent setina, as it amounted to quarter of the land's yields, which is what serfs elsewhere also gave to the masters. In 1838, for 28,500 Austrian lira, family Morosini sold the island to Marco Ragusan from Veli Luzere, who returned wealthy from United States. As Silbans paid rent to previous owner in currency, they assumed they will do the same to the new landowner, but since he lived in Luzere, near to Silba, he refused and demanded a quarter of land's yield in crop. A lawsuit ensued which lasted for 13 years when Ragusan finally decided to sell the island to these same inhabitants who bought it, each paying proportionally to the size of the plot, in total 5,025 Bavarian thalers. On the 19th of March 1852, ownership of the island by inhabitants was registered. It became the island's main holiday, Day of St. Joseph. In the 18th century, Silba had a fleet 38 sailing boats with 3 masts called Mansera of 220 mt and 60 sailing boats 2 masts called Castrilli of 63 mt. The fleet was destroyed by the French at the beginning of the 19th century. The economic benefits to the island from sailing boats led to general well-being on the island. Old local saying says, Silba's alatum shiva iunj radiusiva, that is, Silba shines with gold, on it heavenly enjoyment. In the olden days there was a custom of village king elections. The king would get elected on St. Stephen's Day and his rule would last until 3 kings. During his 12-day rule, he would preside, with crown on his head, surrounded by 12 councillors, over village gatherings and el justice. His task was to name the village head and members of village guards, close the previous year's budget and plan the next year's. He would give verdict on complaints and disputes that have accumulated during the year. This custom died out in the first quarter of the 19th century. The king's crown still exists in the treasury of the parish church. In 1943, Silba was the scene of a naval action during the Adriatic campaign of World War II.